Hi, it's David again, and in this little video we show you a few little furniture tips when you're working with foam core. I hope you have fun making these items. In our last video you saw how we made this three-dimensional model of a house. We're now going to show you how to make some of the little furniture items that go on the inside. We'll be having a look at one of these fantastic circle cutters, so we'll be able to cut this large circle on the outside. We're going to use the straight and bevel cutter. We're also going to use a tool that we didn't look at in the last series, which is a freestyle cutter. This is for actually working around complex shapes, and it's quite good for cutting little intricate bits and pieces. You can find a lot of this information about some of these things in this great foam board magic book, and in fact there's some good stuff in here on how to make furniture, which is what we're just going to show you now. But there's some other cool tips and things that you can make, kids can make at home, some projects, interesting bits and pieces. You can have a look at that on our website. So what you need for this project is some 3mm and 5mm foam core. You can use thicker stuff as well, but we're just going to work with what we've got here today. The first thing I'll do is a really simple thing. We'll just make the kitchen bench top in here, where we've got the sink, the cooktop and the refrigerator in the corner. So what we'll do, we'll just make the refrigerator first and then this little bench top. Here's a really simple box shape that we're going to make. It's going to represent the refrigerator. I'm going to use the rebate cutter, and I've got a little bit of 5mm or 1/4 inch foam core. Put it on the table and just push that rebate cutter along. What you just saw there was me trying to cut this bit of foam with the rebate cutter. I tried to do it on the table there, and in the past I've always cut it up in the air, but I thought because it's a small piece I would hold it down on the table. But the foam core cutter, the rebate cutter, actually works a lot better when you hold it in your hand and just push the rebate cutter along. Then it doesn't put any undue force on the rebate cutter and you're able to cut this little rebate. So that's the first step in making this box for the refrigerator. Here's a little tip. What I've done is I've just run off some prints on my A4 printer. I'm able then to hold my piece of foam core up against the design and just mark the size. So this is going to be the vertical front piece on the refrigerator. I then use the square mark the line I want to cut, and now I'm going to come through and cut that with my straight cutter. The ruler goes on the line, and then with my straight cutter I just put the blade out. There are a few little simple guides on the back here. I've just come down to the first mark, which is going to cut just through this depth of foam core. It's then quite easy to run along and score that piece. So this should fit in my plan as the front piece of the refrigerator. Now I don't quite want it that high. In our scale before we were making a scale of 25:1, and so I've already worked out that the height of this needs to be 2 1/4 inches, which will represent the height of the refrigerator. I come back and I cut that again using my straight cutting tool. And I need another square piece, which is going to be the back section here. So again, using my template, I just measure this size. I'm going to scribe that line, and also I want to match the height. So just aligning the other piece, I transfer the line. So I'm going to use this little piece here. Ruler on the line, just going to cut that. So you can use this to make any simple little box. We're just using the rebate cutter in this example because that will fit together so nicely, and that will just make a representation of the refrigerator. Now we stick that in place just using double-sided tape. Run a little piece of 6mm double-sided tape, or you can use PVA glue, but this is just a little bit quicker, and I like it because you don't get it all over the place. A little bit tricky sometimes to get it off, but there we go. Join these two pieces together. And then I'm going to stick that into that corner. So I'm going to do that by putting some of this double-sided tape on the bottom. So I'm just going to cut that tape with scissors. Stick it on the bottom. And stick a little bit on the side there too. This is just going to hold it up nicely. So I just cut that a little bit long, but I can trim that off. Like so. We can actually use a knife to cut that. So straight away here, I've actually got that piece which is going to sit in here. That's the refrigerator. Also what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little top for it that we can put on top there. So I'll just score and mark that. So we really just have a little piece here that we're going to take off. This is one good thing about this ruler, because it has these rubber grip strips, even when you're cutting a small little thing like this, the foam stays firmly in place. If you try to use just a steel ruler, it moves around all over the place and you can't cut it. But this really grips the foam and enables you to make good, accurate cuts. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on the bottom of that. And actually I might put a little bit on the back too, just so that it can stick up against the wall there. And then just so the client actually knows what it is, after we've done that, we're going to cut this little piece off our plan, the piece I printed up on the A4 paper, and we'll stick it on top. So there's that little bit. It's just going to go into the corner there. So that's representing the refrigerator, and then with my scissors, you could use a knife or scissors. I'm just going to use scissors because it's easy. I've got it here. I'm just going to cut that out of my photocopied piece. I still want to use the rest of this paper because I'm going to use it to measure up the other parts of the plan, but it's quite easy to just put a little bit of double-sided tape on the back of that, and then if we take that double-sided tape off so it's sticky, we can put that back just up on top there so that everyone knows that's a refrigerator. Now we're going to do two quick simple things, which is we're going to make this bench top, which you can see is easy to do. I can measure it straight off my piece here, and in fact what I might do, just to make things really quick and easy, is I'm going to trim up this diagram and we'll stick that straight onto the foam core. We might use sticky foam core for this. So what I can do, I can put my ruler on the line, and I'm not even going to go and grab my Stanley knife. I'm just going to use the foam board trimmer because I'm sure it'll cut this paper easily. that cut very nicely. So I can trim this up. Trim the end off. This will be good because it'll give me the size that I need to make this other piece. And now, rather than even double-sided tape on this, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use an adhesive foam core. So I'll just grab a little piece of that. What I've got here is a piece of adhesive foam core. I've actually gone for the thicker one, and there is our sticky coating. Now, an easy way to do this, rather than cut this to size first of all, is to line up your piece as to where it's going to go, and then I can draw that. So you can see where I've scored that. I can then go along, and what I want to do here is just cut through that top layer. So I'm going to reduce the depth of the cutting tool so that I've just got the blade protruding a small amount. Now what that will do, it won't cut all this board all the way through, but it will enable me to just score through this top layer of adhesive. So I'm just going to run that along, turn it round and do it along the other line there. Now I can just peel that section off, and this way I'm not wasting a lot of board. I've just made that piece sticky. I can then take my bench top and carefully stick it to that adhesive foam board. So now I've got that stuck. It's quite a simple thing to come back with your ruler, which I might do it this way round so you can see what's going on. Come back with my ruler and align it with that edge. Easy to adjust the blade back down into the full thickness of the board that we need, and then we will cut that. I'm going to cut it the other direction. One little bit more. And so we've cut our bench top, and it's nice and neatly stuck to this board. Now what we could do, we could actually build up layers by sticking another layer of sticky board on the back, and another layer, which we might actually do. It might be a quick way to do it. Or we could just use a secondary piece on the front there to represent the kickboard underneath the bench top. So I think what I'll do is I'll use a piece that way. I'm going to need to cut something the same length, so it's quite easy again to use this piece as a template. I'm going to draw around it. So at this scale, this is actually a total representation of that front piece, but what we want to do is not have it quite that height. We need to actually adjust that height to be equivalent to 900 millimeters high, which is the normal workbench height. So I'll just do a quick calculation.